For the past 3 summers, I have prioritized taking time off as a business owner and entrepreneur. Now, I run a 6-figure a year business, some years multiple 6 figures, and that's consistently been happening for 8 years now, which is pretty mind-blowing. But despite revenue, despite launches, despite all of those different things, prioritizing my time off has been how I can show up consistently throughout the year. Now, that consistency changes in the summer though, and that's what I want to talk to you about. I'm taking time off, I'm stepping away for longer periods of time, I'm minimizing the amount of work I do every single week, and here are the habits I focus on instead to continuously grow my business.
This is the Authentic Brand Builders Podcast with Michelle Knight.
Welcome back, Authentic Brand Builder. Today's episode is our final episode before summer break, and that's exactly what I want to talk to you about today. Now, last year was probably the first year I really documented the fact that I was taking time off. If you remember a few years ago, and on the YouTube channel and on my podcast, I had a few episodes on how I was batching content. So we spent 3 months in Greece. So amazing. We spent 3 months in Greece in 2021. And to prepare for that, I batch recorded all of my YouTube videos and had them all scheduled and ready to go because I know what it's like. You never know when internet is going to cooperate while traveling. And I batch recorded a bunch of podcast episodes as well. So I have a vlog here on the YouTube channel, and I have a couple, episodes on my podcast because at the time they were completely separate. If you want to check those out, please do. There's a vlog and so much more. That was really intense, like so intense. But it was a really big year for me as a business owner, and we were in the middle of a launch actually while I was traveling. So prepping all of that content made a lot of sense. Fast forward to the next year, and I started to think about taking some time away with a different approach. This time, I actually just stepped away from creating content. Now, part of the reason that I just abruptly stopped creating new content was actually because we were dealing with some health issues in my family, and it just needed to stop in order for me to show up in these other areas of my life. So that wasn't so much a choice on my part, but it really opened my eyes to the possibility of what I could do every summer. Then last year, we had just moved into our house and I started gardening, and I very specifically said, I'm taking the summer off of new content. And I documented that for you in a few podcast episodes and videos last year as well. We're going to link all of those in case you want to binge listen and binge watch all the different things that I've tried and I've done, and even a recap of actually what happened last year and how I was still able to make money in my business. Well, I'm gearing up to do it again, and I thought this time, let's take a different approach. Let's talk a little bit more about what I do. Yes, because some of you are new here, and I want to make sure that you understand what this break, quote unquote, actually means. And I want to share with you 5 habits that I have been doing now for the past 3 summers that I believe really help me make the majority of my money, which happens in the fall and the winter, which is pretty amazing that consistently happens in business. So let's talk about what this break actually means. I am not completely stepping away from my business. And I think that's really important to say. I am in no way taking a sabbatical. I am in no way not showing up and, actively selling. Those things are still happening. But what I am prioritizing is working less and working quite a bit less. I typically try not to work on Mondays and Fridays. Now that obviously can fluctuate based on our schedule and what we've got going on. And I like to prioritize just a few hours, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, to check in with my clients because I still am working one-on-one with my clients. Those are my normal client days. Check in my academy and do anything that ultimately needs to be done from an admin perspective. And some of the habits I'm going to share with you today. One of the things that saves me so much time and a decision that I have made is to not create new content. And what I mean by that is I don't create new podcast episodes like the one you're listening to or watching right now, which means that I'm not creating new blog posts, which means I'm not creating new video content. Now, every week that takes on average about an hour and a half to 2 hours of my time to create, schedule, and get all of that content ready to go. So that helps in, working less. It also frees up the capacity for my husband, who is the editor of the podcast and YouTube, to help me with other projects, as well as Delana, our operations manager. The same thing happens there. And you're going to see why this all matters when I share these habits with you, because I need their support in a lot of these things that we do. So we're freeing up the schedule for a lot of us by just minimizing creating new core content. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm not still repeating my content, repurposing my content on Pinterest, and I'm not scheduling my content on YouTube Shorts, which I absolutely am, and I'm not emailing my list. I'm doing all of those things. I'm still selling and making money in my business. But what it allows me to do is focus on these 5 things and minimize how much work I actually have to do in my business. I also, before we jump into the 5 things, prioritize filling my one-on-one before the summer. And what that allows me to do is make sure that I have that repeated income coming in throughout the summer months. So if I am going to be launching or I am going to be promoting something, that's amazing. That's like a cherry on top. But if I don't feel like it or my schedule doesn't allow, I know that I'm at least meeting the bare minimum in terms of revenue coming into my business for my one-on-one clients. Because I've been doing this a long time, I know that I need to start actively doing that around April or May to prepare for this summer break, as we call it. So let's talk about 5 of the things that I have actively been prioritizing that I think are so amazing for you to possibly look at and do in your business if you're considering doing the same thing. And remember, this doesn't necessarily mean that you have to stop creating content. Maybe you just choose to move a few things around in your schedule. Maybe you decide to eliminate one thing for just a few months to make room for something else. I'm all about testing and experimenting in my business. I've also found, and I think that this is really important to pay attention to as you grow your business, is that during the summer months, my ideal customer is also not really wanting to be on social media, not really wanting to consume a lot of content. They're enjoying the freaking summer. They're outside. They're with their kiddos. Their kiddos are home from school. So many of you have got kids, and suddenly your whole schedule is completely different. So why would I really stress myself out to create a bunch of content every single week when it's not being consumed at the rate it normally is? Plus, I know that because I create evergreen content like podcasts and blogs and YouTube videos, those are still getting discovered every single week, even if I'm not creating anything new. And that's really fun to watch and so fun as a business owner, because it just is like, wow, I created that piece of content and it's still performing and it's still taking off. And I love experiencing that while I'm in my garden caring for my plants, you know? Okay. So the first thing that I really prioritize during summer break is analysis. Oh my gosh, we look at like everything during the summer. I like to see how things are performing, because when you're in the thick of it, you can't always get nitty gritty with the data. I love peeking at the data, my Google Search Console, my Google Analytics, my website traffic, my Pinterest analytics, my YouTube analytics, my email analytics, okay? I'm always peeking at those every 30 days to see any major changes. However, I'm not getting like nitty gritty with it, really analyzing my open rate and my click-through rate, or how long people are staying on certain pages and are those pages optimized. Like sometimes I don't have the capacity to do all of that every single week. I have what I call a finger on the pulse of what is happening in the business, but don't have enough capacity to dive deep. However, in the summer during this break, I absolutely do. So we're really looking at tons of analytics. We're diving into our SEO. We're looking for SEO opportunities. We are making some of those changes. We're trying to see, were there any big shifts, any launches that maybe we could have done something different. We're really analyzing, I would say the last, 6 months, but sometimes even just the last year, since like last August when we come back. So analysis is so amazing, and we use ClickUp to kind of analyze all of our data. Delana and I have been working really hard at building more trackers and information hubs for the business. We have a lot, but we're looking at creating more because there's so many pieces that I've created. And so that's part of it too, is like analyzing that data and making sure that we've got a spot to organize it and revisit and come back to. ClickUp, as many of you know, is my personal favorite. So the second thing that I do piggybacks off the first one when I'm making updates to any of the things that we've just analyzed. And we're also organizing a ton of things as well. So a great example of this is many of you who are inside of Brand Mary Academy have heard me talk about my blog database before, or my core content database. This is essentially a massive database in ClickUp that lists every single core content that I've created, which would be like a link to the blog, the video, and the podcast, right? They're all the same piece of content. It shares when it was posted, it shares what I promoted, it shares everything. And this is so amazing because I love repurposing. And so I can very easily go into ClickUp and I can type in a word of a blog or something I want to talk about or share, and it'll pull up any piece of content that I've created around that. It's so freaking amazing. I love it so much. Now, one of the things that we are working on right now and organizing is our funnel tracker. So I'm really cleaning up and simplifying so much on the back end of the business. This started last year in January, but life happens, and so we haven't quite gotten it done yet, and that's A-okay. Life goes on, business goes on, but this summer is a really great opportunity for us to dive in and make sure that's all fleshed out. So all of our freebies, where are they going? What is the opt-in? How are we tracking that? Are there ads to that? What sequences on the back end, tags, like all of that. So that's an example of kind of organizing some of our stuff in the back end that's going to make our life a lot easier moving forward. I also love to make updates. And so I tell my clients all the time, if you've got a blog, this is like the prime time to go back and update old content. So while I'm not creating anything new, which takes time, right? We've all done it. We all create content. I am going back and I'm optimizing previous content. And the way that I go about doing this is I look at my analytics. So Google Search Console will tell me what kind of posts are taking off or getting more clicks or showing up in searches. Every month, I'm having pretty much a new blog post showing up on page 1 or page 2 and getting clicks to my website. So what I want to do, especially during this time, is I want to go in, I want to make sure that blog post is optimized. I want to make sure it's got the proper freebie. I want to make sure it has the proper information. Does it need to be updated? Is there an opportunity to make a sale potentially in that blog post? And can I update any keywords or title or just general content? Google loves when you update old content, and so this is great. When I update that content, I also share it with my email list because why the heck not? The odds of all of them seeing it when I originally posted it are so slim. And so this is an example of something that I do in the summer that feels like fresh content to my audience, but it's not me sitting down and spending hours creating, or my team creating the content. It takes me maybe 30 minutes to make these updates. And this has really helped us continuously get our old blog posts and our old content to rank on Google after we take this chunk of time in the summer to update and organize it. So again, this could look like something different for you, but I love the back end stuff, like organizing, updating, the stuff that just gets forgotten because we know when we're showing up and we're prioritizing the things that we need to do in our business, we need to reach our new audience, right? We want to be growing our community and growing our email list, and we want to be making a sale every day. So sometimes this SEO stuff, these blog posts, making sure that our, Pinterest graphics are converting at the rate that we would like to be, like all of that stuff, kind of sometimes it slips through the cracks. We don't always have time to dive into that, but taking this break, quote unquote, from creating new content really frees up a ton of time for me to do this sort of thing. The third thing that I love to do during this time is to test. Have fun. Like, is there something that I've been wanting to maybe do, but I don't 100% have the capacity to do it? Can I play around and experiment with zero pressure and just see what happens? An example of this is a few years ago, I experimented with a series called the Sunday Letters. And this was back in 2022. I just wanted to be able to show up and share kind of my thoughts and my stories with zero pressure of like providing like a blog post or YouTube or anything, and just create these letters to my email list. And summer felt like a really good time for me to do that because, again, I wasn't creating any new content, so I had the capacity to add on another letter. Well, this took off and I've been doing it every summer since, but I tested it that summer, absolutely loved it, got such great response that I wanted to continue doing it. This summer, I'm going to be playing around with social media. I decided, see how I hesitated? I decided that this year was the year that I would stop hating social media. And I went into the year feeling really good about it. I was super consistent. I was feeling what I was doing. I felt a little bit more organized, but somewhere around March, early April, I just lost interest again. And this just happens with me with social media more than I would like to admit, which is why I don't build my business by relying on social media, because I know myself. And I know that there are so many times where I want to put my phone in a lockbox and not have access to social media at all. Sometimes it is seriously a dream. But I also know that I love information and I love to see what people are doing. I love research and I just like the social aspect of it. So it's just not realistic. Sometimes I want to move into a cabin in the middle of the woods and talk to nobody, but I run an online business. You know what I mean? So I have noticed that I'm feeling a little about social media again. So this summer, I'm going to test some stuff. I'm going to see like what kind of content have I been thinking about creating that might take a little bit more time to get started and see how I feel about it. I also know that this could possibly change, in 3 months or 4 months, but maybe I'll learn something about myself through this testing period or learn something about how I want to show up that could pay off in the long run. So when I say testing, it's like a no pressure type of test. I don't know what it is about summer, but I really can just like play around and be like, it's summer, let's play. And like the pressure is completely gone of it actually working out. So I find that this is a really fun thing for me to do. And I would recommend you choose whether it's a month or 2 months or maybe 3 months like I'm doing, play around with something you've been considering. The fourth thing that I love to do in the summer are limited time offers or special series, like I mentioned, the Summer Sunday Letter, which was a limited time series that I've now done for 3 years, which is so fun, where I send Sunday letters to my email list. And again, that was a test. It completely took out. I had so much fun with it. It's like a limited time type of thing. I find that my open rates for the Summer Sunday Letter are so freaking high. They're so much higher than my normal emails, which are already pretty high, hovering around like 46, 47%, but we go above 50% when I send out these storytelling letters. So that's really fun that this limited time series is something that my audience really enjoys. But last summer, I also did a limited time promotion. I had the summer shop where I released some of my marketing courses, which are only available inside of Brand Mary Academy, and I released them as a one-time purchase. I'm doing it again this year, and I'm really excited to offer some new one-time purchases. But the thing about this is it's very limited. It's not like the store is always open. I call it the summer shop. It's a small period of time. It allows me to promote things that I know would be of service to my audience, but I'm not running a group program. I'm not doing a crazy big launch. It's just really simple. Here's some products. They're available for a short amount of time. Here's your opportunity to grab them. So if you are considering taking a break from creating new content or whatever that looks like for you, are there some fun limited time promotions or sales that you could do to support your business? Like I mentioned, I plan for this. So I always work with Philly, my one-on-one, prior to the summer. I always will plan on having something evergreen running in the background. This summer, it's my Storytelling Made Simple course, which is so amazing. I'm so excited that that is out into the world. This was my dream for this year. This was my number one goal this year, and it's May, and it's done. It's there. I just love it so much. But then dripping in these limited time offers and bonuses that are of service to my community that are obviously going to bring in revenue for me as well. So again, this kind of piggybacks off of the whole testing or playing, but is there something that you could do that's maybe different than your normal routine? Let's say you offer one-on-one primarily, but you've been thinking about offering an ebook. Maybe the summer is the time to say, hey, it's a limited time ebook. Here's your chance to get it, test it, analyze, look at the data, and then maybe decide to add it to your offer suite later on. And the last thing that I do, a summer habit for me as an entrepreneur and a business owner, is I prioritize the shit out of myself. Okay. I mean, I'm always prioritizing myself because, as I've said many, many times, if I'm not good, if my health isn't good, if I'm not physically, emotionally, and mentally good, I cannot show up as a business owner. Does that mean that every single day is absolutely perfect? Oh my gosh, no. Okay? Does it mean that every single week I get everything I want done? Oh, hell no. But it is a goal that the majority of the time, this is my focus, to care for myself. Now, in the summer, something I know about myself is I thrive being outside. We have so many jokes in my family that I'm a woodland fairy, that I just constantly need to be outside. I'm barefoot 90% of the time. If I could live outside and didn't enjoy some of the luxuries of air conditioning, I probably would do it. I love it so much. It fills me the fuck up. And so I prioritize that in the summer by rearranging my schedule, by eliminating things that I can, by minimizing the hours that I need to work in a day so I can have that because I need that. And it allows me to come back refreshed during the fall and the winter when, as I've mentioned, my business makes the majority of our yearly revenue. This is something that I've been tracking for 8 years now, so I've got the data to show for it. And it really just brings me into the fall and ultimately the winter with new ideas, with fresh perspectives. I've tested, I've played, we've updated things in the background of the business. And it's something that is so important to me. I also am given the opportunity as a homeschool mama to actually get a bit of a break in the summer. So while some of you listening might have your kiddos home for the first time, like in the year during the summer, my kiddo's always home, but I'm not a teacher in the summertime, which is pretty amazing. It allows me to fill my cup back up, to seek out inspiration, to try new things, to prioritize some of the things that maybe got pushed to the side, bring back some habits that I maybe just kind of lost track of. It happens to the best of us. And I think that having this opportunity to really ground yourself and serve yourself in the way that you need physically, mentally, and emotionally is so important as an entrepreneur. And if that means that you have to change up what consistency looks like for you, if you have to change up what your content creation looks like for you for a short period of time, I promise you, you're going to be okay. Now, as I've mentioned, I don't completely disappear. I am still showing up. I repurpose a lot of old emails if I don't feel like writing something new that week. I'm still emailing my list. I'm still repurposing content. I'm still doing those different things. I'm just doing it in a way that allows me to prioritize my personal life much more during this season, which again really pays off during the busier months and the holidays when we maybe don't have a ton of time. So you're probably listening to this episode because you're considering taking a break or you're curious about taking a break. And again, I just want to be super clear. I'm not against sabbaticals. I think sabbaticals are absolutely fine. I might take one in the future. We don't know. But up until this point, this approach, along with taking at least 1 week off every quarter away from my business, has really helped me build a sustainable business. And it really can be that simple. So I encourage you to look at what your normal content plan is. I encourage you to look at some of the areas where maybe you could pull back a little bit just to create a little bit more space for you to ground yourself and refill your cup. Now, one thing that I will mention is one of the reasons that I am absolutely able to do this is because for years I have been prioritizing evergreen search engine platforms. This means that even when I don't create new content, that people are still finding my YouTube videos. People are still finding my blogs via Google. People are still discovering things on Pinterest. Even if I didn't post on any of those platforms, which I have done in the past, people would still be discovering my old content. This has set me up for success. So if you're in a place where you're like, that sounds great, I want to be there next year, I want to start getting these pieces in place so that I can do all of this next year, I encourage you to check out my on-demand marketing training. I just updated it. It's going to teach you the exact approach that I take, how to create evergreen content, why we want to be creating evergreen content, and which platforms might work the best for you. So you can watch it now completely on demand. It's at brandmerry.com/marketing. That's brandmerry.com/marketing. And you can watch that class. And it's really going to help you start to think about ways that you can shift your marketing strategy, change your marketing strategy to support you doing this next year, or maybe next fall, or maybe you love to travel with your family in January, February, March because it's fucking cold where you are and you don't want to do it anymore. This is something that has been on my mind for quite some time now, if you can't tell. Having these strategies in place can be absolutely amazing, and now would be a great time to start building those and work on those. All right, that's it. I will be back in August with new podcast episodes. But as you can probably imagine, this is episode 119. There's a lot of old content waiting for you over on the blog, on YouTube, on the podcast. So much for you to dive into. And if you are on my email list, which I highly recommend, if you sign up to watch that marketing class, you will then be on my email list. You'll be getting some awesome content from me this summer. I'll be bringing back and revamping some old content and sharing it with you. Stuff I'm seeing like super, super important during these summer months, watching the trends, seeing what people are talking about. I guarantee you I already have a piece of content that focuses on that. And I'll be sharing those Sunday letters, which I'm so excited to bring back. I think that's it. I was going to say I'll see you next week for another episode, but I won't. I hope you have an amazing summer. If you follow me on Instagram or you're on my email list, we'll be chatting it up. If you have any questions about your summer strategy or would love an opinion on something you're thinking, send me a DM over at Michelle Knight Co on Instagram and let's have a chat about it. Have an amazing summer. I'll see you in the fall.